Good. I will open Tuesday, May 4th, City Council regular meeting. Your approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to start right off with a public comment. I don't get very many of those. I believe that's Jan. So we'll connect her.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, Jan.
Hi, Jan.
Hi, I'm Jan Siebert Warmond, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and my husband, Wes Warmond. Our address is P.O. Box 778, Cannon Beach, Oregon, 97110. Dear Cannon Beach Mayor and City Councilors, first, thank you all for your dedicated service to our community. We're very concerned with tonight's timeline and rushed process in regard to a possible site selection and referral to voters for a new Cannon Beach City Hall and or police station. Where is the possibility for the public's involvement in this very recently restarted process toward a new city hall and or police station? Who has evaluated whether or not we as a community even want a city hall combined with a police station, or if they could be built separately? The view of many on the previous public committee looking into this was that the building size for a combined City Hall police station that was suggested was too large for our city. It seems all the work done by that public committee has been mostly dismissed or forgotten with this newly restarted City Hall and or police station process. Please allow us to remind you that we are still in the midst of a pandemic. Many people in our community are struggling to put food on their tables. Wes and I are not necessarily totally against a new city hall and or police station being built in Cannon Beach. What we would be opposed to is our community not taking a more inclusive, comprehensive, and creative approach to this newly restarted process. This is an important, complex project, too important and complex to be rushed and without the involvement of our community neighborhood members as we begin once again to look at this project and process. Please consider a referral date to voters regarding this project for May of 2022 at the very earliest. That would at least give us all a more reasonable, doable timeline to follow. We owe it to ourselves, each other, and all who love our town now and in years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan. And as you know, this is on the last item on the list, so we'll get to it and we'll discuss it and we'll take your points to consideration. Okay, I have nobody else for public comment. We'll move to our first item. It is a public hearing. So the hearing regarding the appeal requested by Jeffrey D. Moon for the Planning Commission's denial of CU 2101 for the conditional use permit for cottage industry for an automotive towing operation at tax lot 1032 BC 00400. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the city council to hear this appeal at this time? Does any councilor believes he or she has a personal bias to declare? Okay. Does any councilor believes he or she has a conflict of interest? Has any councilor had an ex parte contact or made a site visit? I kind of made a site visit, drove by.
Drive by, yeah.
Is there any additional correspondence? I see none.
No, I did not receive any. Did you, Jeff?
No.
No. Okay. I will jump right into it. Jeff.
All right, Mayor, Council, thank you. I'd like to at least kind of briefly go through the background and then kind of hit the highlights of the Planning Commission's findings so that those at home can at least know what we're interested in here. Background, the City of Cannon Beach Planning Commission rendered a decision to deny the conditional use CU 2101 for a cottage industry for an automotive towing operation in conjunction with the new residence for Jeffrey Moon, tax lot 400, map 51032 BC, east of Highway 101, north of East Surfcrest Avenue, a 1.1 acre, very low density residentially zoned vacant property at its January 28, 21st regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting. PC's findings are attached to staff report, and all of those materials can be found on the city's website. Jeff Moon requested a review of the decision in an application and letter received February 10, 2021, within the 14 consecutive calendar days appeal period from the date the final order was signed. City Council held a scope of review meeting as a non-public hearing item on March 2nd, 2021, remanding the item to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission held a duly noticed public hearing on the matter on March 25th, and after considering the proposed changes, upheld its previous decision to deny CU 2101. The findings are attached below. City Council held a scope review meeting as a non-public hearing item on April 6th to confirm the Moon's appeal will be held on record according to 1788-160 of the Cannon Beach Municipal Code. The applicant seeks an appeal limited to the conditional use for cottage industry for single home site and accessory structure to house the garage. The applicant provided evidence for the towing operation, including a new site plan, towing business at the March 25th hearing, and those materials are included in the packets. So I'd like to touch on the Planning Commission's findings, and the key findings beginning on page 3 of their the latest findings from last month's meeting. 1780-110A and a demand for the demand exists for the use on the property. The Cannon Beach Planning Commission finds that their transportation policy number 4 of the comprehensive plan adequately speaks to the intent of protecting the scenic value with Highway 101 corridor. The city recognizes the Highway 101 corridor has significant scenic attributes. These attributes include 2 travel lanes, a forested corridor that creates a sense of enclosure and continuity, the lack of adjacent commercial development, and a limited number of access points onto the highway. The city will cooperate with ODOT in protecting these elements of the Highway 101 corridor through Cannon Beach. PC finds this policy just one of many limiting the commercial footprint and directing development along the corridor to respect the distinct edges of these commercial zones. The PC discussed the essential service nature of having a towing service within the Cannon Beach footprint, but could not find that necessitated an interpretation of cottage industry to allow for such expansion of a commercial use into the residential, very low density district. The commission could not find evidence of compliance with this standard. I'll jump ahead to the bottom of 4, top of 5, which is 178110F on the siding of the in building design. And the Planning Commission, the applicant has proposed that by allowing Gary's to relocate to this location outside of the downtown business area, it will allow for beautification of one of the main tourist areas of Cannon Beach. The standard, however, requires that the building design be compatible with surrounding residential area. As the applicant points out, this stretch of Highway 101 is heavily forested and very few of the structures along the route are visible. PC must find the design ensures it remains compatible. The application materials provide an elevation drawing of the proposed garage with a statement from the application that the garage storage facility will be a metal building with allure cement lap siding along the bottom and allure 8-inch OC panel siding along the lap. As stated elsewhere, the building plans would also be required to meet DRB approval prior to construction. Although the city of Cannon Beach may not currently have an awaiting available location for Gary's garage in its commercially zoned areas, the Planning Commission doesn't believe such paucity in light industrial type space turning areas designated for very low residential into commercial areas without vetting through a zoning and map amendment process. The commission fails to find evidence of compliance with this standard. And on D, 1780-280 Cottage Industries, D, the findings state, the cottage industry standards call for limited hours of delivery operations from 8 to 6 p.m. and the applicant has indicated that Gary's towing business is generated by phone calls and emails. Business serves Tillamook and Clatsop counties in Oregon and Pacific County in Washington. Business hours are 8 to 5 p.m. Most tow calls occur during business hours. The only exception is an after-hours request from a local law enforcement agency to tow a vehicle from an accident scene 1 to 2 per week, or a local service call attended with Gary's service vehicles 1 to 3 per week. It should be noted that conditional use provisions under 1780-280B provides an avenue for surrounding landowners to complain and receive a public hearing and ability to terminate a use that is not meeting the conditions of use. They continue, the commission finds no evidence the towing facility will provide as an adequate storage area for impounded vehicles and does not wish to see the scenic Highway 101 converted to a vehicle storage area. The PC is wary of examples of other coastal communities and their Highway 101 corridors and desires to maintain the uniqueness of the aesthetic qualities of Cannon Beach 101's corridor. Finally, in the findings on the comprehensive plan, the Planning Commission finds that the General Development Policy 13 and Community Appearance and Design Policy number 1 adequately capture the desire of the Cannon Beach community to create and maintain a forested buffer, a scenic corridor throughout Cannon Beach's Highway 101 corridor. The PC recognizes the role Gary's Garage has served the community over the years, yet there are zoning process to address such needs, including map amendments of the zoning code to locate areas which might better serve an expansion of such commercial needs, rather than utilizing the cottage industry conditional use standards to stretch such commercial or light industrial uses into highly visible, directly accessible residential areas along a scenic byway. The Planning Commission cannot find compliance with the comprehensive plan. So the Planning Commission, upon a failed motion to approve, denied the conditional use. And staff would just state that if the council did decide to overturn, that they would review those conditions that were suggested to the commission. Any questions?
No? Okay. Thanks, Jeff. This appeal will be reviewed against the criteria of Municipal Code 1780, conditional uses, and 1788, public deliberations and hearings. The hearing will be held on the record and no new evidence will be allowed into the record. Pertinent criteria to be considered are noted on the staff reports. Testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards those criteria or other criteria of the comprehensive municipal code which the person testifying believes to apply to the decision. Failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal based on that issue. Prior to the conclusion of the initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional testimony, arguments, or evidence regarding the application. The city shall grant such requests by continuing the public hearing or leaving the record open for additional written testimony, arguments, or evidence. Persons who testify shall first receive recognition from the mayor, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing in a representative capacity, identify whom they represent. Testimony is limited to matters which are raised at the planning commission hearing in writing or orally. Is there a presentation by the appellant? That would be John or Steve? I don't know which one.
Yeah.
That's Jody. Yeah.
Jody.
Device disconnecting. Just let me add the second one.
This is Jeff Moon. Can you guys hear me?
Hi, Jeff. Yes.
Hi. Okay. My name is Jeff Moon and my address is 220 Ogden Drive, Oregon City, Oregon. And I'm speaking on behalf of the Moon family, including my mom and Marilyn Moon and my two brothers, John and Steve Moon. My late father, Gary, previously met with Jeff Adams, as did my brother Steve and I, to discuss options for moving Gary's service center away from downtown to another less congested location in Cannon Beach. Due to the lack of available commercial land, we purchased the property lot 400 east of Highway 101. We are appealing the Planning Commission's decision and requesting conditional use of the cottage industry designation to operate Gary's Service Center towing business at our new property. If this is granted, the business will no longer conduct auto repairs when they move to the new property. And with the economies of policy for the Cannon Beach Comprehensive Plan on the second page, the zoning ordinance shall maintain an area outside of the 3 commercial centers for commercial activities requiring extensive land area. Examples of uses to be provided are building material sales, warehouses, contractor shops, and enclosed recreational uses. Gary's Towing needs to remain in Cannon Beach. Dispatching agencies such as AAA will not allow the business to be located in Seaside or at the Highway 26 101 junction, as these are both Seaside addresses. There is already a AAA towing company in that jurisdiction. There is no advantage to Gary's remaining at his current location in downtown Cannon Beach. Tow trucks leaving and returning to the business often must stop vehicle and or pedestrian traffic to maneuver into their parking spots, especially during heavy summer tourist months. Downtown congestion slows the business's response time to calls and adds unnecessary traffic in the downtown area. At its current location, Gary's does not have any room to expand storage for vehicles. For right now, we have 4 tow trucks and 1 service vehicle, plus towed vehicles that we bring in. We only have 3 garages that are under cover. And so we have 2 trucks that are outside, or we have to, John or Steve has to bring a truck home with them. By vacating the downtown area, it will allow the beautification of one of the main tourist areas of Cannon Beach. We will maintain the current property zone designation as RVL on the 1.15 acre property. We plan to build 1 home for John Moon and his family, along with a business garage storage facility. The garage storage facility will house the business's 4 tow trucks and 1 service vehicle, along with towed vehicles using vehicle lifts as necessary. Towed vehicles are usually stored for no more than 30 days until they are moved to body shops or the wrecking yard. The proposed development will abide by setback requirements of 20 feet. There will not be a sign needed on the building, as it will not be open to the public. The only customers coming to the business will be those with an appointment to pick up a towed vehicle. There will only be 2 employees. John Moon will be the employee who lives on the premises, while Steve Moon will be the one other employee. Gary's towing business is generated by phone calls and emails. The business services Tillamook and Clatsop counties in Oregon and Pacific County in Washington. Business hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Most tow calls occur during business hours. The only exception is an after-hour request from a local law enforcement agency to tow a vehicle from an accident scene, which currently happens 1 to 2 times per week, or a local service call attended with Gary's service vehicle, which happens 1 to 3 times per week. Everything else that we do, we push off till the next day, till 8 a.m., or we just decline the tow. The property will be assessed via private drive from the State Highway 101. The estimated number of average round trips per day is 16. No other properties will have access to this private drive. Noise generated from the business will be limited to vehicle traffic to and from the garage, storage facility, as well as the residence, which will be much quieter than the Highway 101 traffic noise. There are houses within 50 to 65 feet of Gary's current downtown business location. We've had no complaints from our neighbors who have resided next to the business for over 50 years, which has transitioned from a full mechanic shop and gas station with towing to the current light mechanical and towing business. The property is bordered by Steve Moon's property on the south. The property owner to the east will not be able to see the garage storage facility because of the large hill to the east of the property. The property to the north does not contain a house. It's just a storage facility for scrap lumber. We plan to plant bushes and trees along the west and south side of the garage storage facility to help minimize the view of the building from the highway. There is a 75-foot buffer of green space on state land between the gravel area of the shoulder of State Highway 101 and the property. We will also plant bushes and trees along the property line north of the private access road. My brother's livelihood is Gary's Cannon Beach Service Center, a local family business that has been an asset to the community for over 50 years. We asked the Cannon Beach City Council to approve our appeal of the cottage industry designation for the Moon property, lot 400, east of Highway 101. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please ask.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions?
I'm confused as to where the towed vehicles will actually be stored. Will they be stored inside the building or outside the building?
No, it'll all be stored inside the building. We're allowed 4 licensed vehicles outside the building. So if anybody does come up to pick up their vehicle, or John or Steve drives over there for some reason or leaves a vehicle outside, we can have up to 4 vehicles outside that are licensed. All the accidents will be, or vehicles that we tow in will be inside our building. And we will have lift mechanisms in the back of the buildings so we can store more cars inside the building. We can lift, drive them up onto this lift and then lift them up and then store another car below it. So
How many cars will you have in the building then?
It can be anywhere from 4 to 6 to up to 12 or 14 possibly or so. But we will not park anything outside. None of the accidents or impounded cars.
Any questions? Okay, you'll have a chance for some response There obviously, there's only one other speaker, so there are no other proponents. Can we hook up Leslie Dowd? And this is an opponent from what I see. Leslie?
Yes,
Okay,
Hi.
go ahead.
Okay, well, my name is Leslie Dowd, Post Office Box 704, Tolovana Park, Oregon, 97145. I live at 172 East Chisana Street, and I also speak for Scott Evanson of 195 East Chisana and Joan Evanson of 131 and 187 East Chisana. And I'm not quite sure about how much I can say. We don't have anything new to add to the record. We have all sent several letters. I don't know if the city council has read them. We oppose the Moon proposal and ask you to affirm the Planning Commission's decision of March 25th for the reasons we've previously entered into the record and the reasons that the Planning Commission stated. This will set a precedent for future commercial light industrial businesses to encroach upon residential areas by using a cottage industry permit, ultimately forever changing the charm of our town. And approving the request will open the door for dismantling the city's comprehensive plan, which stresses the importance of maintaining the scenic character of 101. And we feel just from the trees and shrubbery Mr. Moon's already cleared from the site, it's highly likely the garage will be visible. And the vehicles, which I have never understood from past hearings, will not be parked outside the building. I always understood that if they have too many to fit inside the building, then anything left over will have to be parked outside, is what I had understood from previous hearings. We don't feel this is a cottage industry at all, and agree with the Planning Commission that it is a commercial business and light industrial, and it's a 24-hour towing service. And apparently they do get up to 5 calls a week after hours. So I don't see how they could limit it to just 8 to 5, which is what, or 8 to 6, which is what a cottage industry requires. And don't understand why the Moons have to relocate to Cannon Beach. We also that there are other towing businesses in the area that are within that are just 15 minutes away in Seaside and in Manzanita. We also wonder, does AAA require them to be a 24-hour service? And if so, they couldn't possibly, again, be a cottage industry. Turning in and out of the property with large tow trucks puts nearby homes and lives at risk, as well as endangering other drivers. Log trucks and year-round traffic is swift, leaving the decision to cross traffic to and from the property shouldn't just be left to their good judgment to go to the next exit, turn around on 101, and go back to turn right onto the property, which is what was suggested they do at the Planning Commission level. I think that's really not something that we can rely on in rezoning. Basically, what is rezoning the property? We can't find any hardship here. They have a valuable downtown commercial property, which they can sell, and that's fine. But the lot that they're trying to put their business on is zoned RVL, and I don't see how you can permit what is clearly, I keep saying this, a commercial activity to be done on a residential lot without changing the comprehensive plan or rezoning the lot. We feel the proposed operation would cause an obvious fire danger to the beautiful forested area by storing many broken down vehicles with their various combustible fluids. And there's also the possibility of drainage of such fluids into the soil and into the wetlands, which are very nearby. They're right behind me. Prior to the first planning commission meetings, Jeff Moon requested from the city the names of those who submitted letters in opposition. He then approached many of us directly. Details of the bill were minimal. And in at least 2 instances, he issued a statement that if he could not get the cottage industry permit, he would move to get the land zoned commercial. And that once zoned commercial, he could then sell the land and build the hotel there. We kind of felt that this was said to intimidate us. Previous discussions have centered around the Moon's history with the town as if it were a reason to accommodate their request. And with that line of thinking, the same consideration ought to be applied to those opposing, of which several have been here for 5 generations. And thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
No, I did want to clarify. I think Jeff had said something about he's limited to 4 parked outside. That was just one of the conditions that was suggested. So nothing currently limiting.
Let me just clarify a little bit of that. The residents would be allowed to have their personal vehicles there.
Yes, So if you guys were to overturn, that's why I suggested you look at those conditions, because that's where I think that 4 car came from. So,
Okay.
But they wouldn't be towed vehicles that were allowed to park there.
if you conditioned it, you can condition those kind of things. Yeah.
Okay. At that, Jeff, if he has any additional statements, he may make those. Okay.
Yeah, this is Jeff Moon again.
Okay.
So talking about some of Leslie's things, one of the things was that Jeff Adams and I looked at a long time ago, several months back, was, there is no commercial land in Cannon Beach to go to. We feel hostage at being downtown still. We used to have 5 service stations in Cannon Beach back in the 50s and 60s when my dad was growing up and stuff. We had them on Gower Street. We had a Chevron station across our street. We had Sages. There was 5 of them. When I was growing up and working at the station in the late 70s and 80s and all the way into 90, we had 3 service stations and stuff, and then down to 2. And then eventually we're the last ones that have gotten out of this downtown section. So it's not a place that we need to be at. We don't need to be down in downtown Cannon Beach. Let it get beautified. Let the tourists enjoy the quaint shops and stuff, whatever it may become downtown. But there's no reason for us to stay down there with our towing business. That's why we looked and looked and looked. And there's property that the commercial property down to the Tolovano Mainland Road off east off of 101 in the corridor, also the 101 corridor, that eventually will probably be a police station or city hall and other areas. And that was one proponent that we could move there, but that's way down the road in our business. And so there's no place to go. Okay. That is allowed. But in the economy's policy on the second page of this whole Cannon Beach comprehensive plan, it states zoning ordinances shall maintain an area outside of 3 commercial centers for commercial activities. And we are a commercial activity, yes, but we are a cottage industry. We have our family members, and we can have one extra person, and that's it. And that's what we plan and intend to do. That's why we're not going to do anything mechanic work or anything else. We are not going to be spilling any oil or anything out on the concrete or outside into the wetlands or any ground. It's all going to be enclosed inside of our facility. The hours of operation for a cottage industry is 8 to 6 for deliveries, and that's deliveries. That means like garbage trucks or UPS and other commercial activities. That doesn't mean I can't drive my pickup truck, my service vehicle outside down my driveway onto the highway like everybody else does, and then go do a lockout or a service call. And we do turn down lots of AAA calls. Yes, we can be 24 hours. And my dad used to get every call that was possible out there. These days, we don't. And a lot of service places don't. And they're calling all the time trying to get people to take on these tow calls and service calls. But we delay it. We only have 2 drivers. We have 2 drivers to run our 5 vehicles. And so we'll never have more than 2 vehicles out there on the road at one time anyways. So it's 2 drivers, and that's it. So we're gonna do everything we can to hide the building from the 101, and we've stated that and showed it on our plans for trees and bushes around the building and so forth. So nothing's new there. It's not going to be any different than East Surfcrest Road. The East Surfcrest Road, which is just to the south of us, is a city street. It's got way more lots there for residential. They'll have a lot more in and out trips than our little private drive with one house on it and in a storage facility for our tow trucks and service vehicles. So, and if you drive by 101 and you look up Surfcrest, you can see all the homes up there, plain as day. It's all opened up. There's not trees lining the road to help block the views of any of that stuff. And we're just trying to blend into the environment. We don't plan on having any issues up there. It's pretty straightforward, I think. And we're abiding by all the rules of the cottage industry and RVL zoning, which is 1 acre lot or greater. And that's what we're doing. We're just staying within the RVL designation, and RVL says cottage industry is available. So I hope you guys look at all this and make a decision to allow us to have our cottage industry towing business up there on lot 400. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. At that, I will close the public hearing and move for consideration. A really tough one. I just want to, I talked to Gary several years ago, 2 or 3 times, specifically about his concern about finding a place outside, away from the downtown area. It was both emotional conversations and considerate conversations with him. He did mention this property at one point. And I emphasized the fact that that was the least likely at that time. We were looking at some other places, and I have been always in the back of my mind searching for some facility within the Cannon Beach area so that they could stay in our downtown, not our downtown, but our town. There are no options, no easy options. There are options, but there are no easy options and no inexpensive options. So with that, this one has really difficult concept because I personally am highly stressed by the fact that any commercial cottage or not happening there with direct access to 101 is detrimental to our town. This business, though, is unique. Having direct access to 101 is actually a plus for that business. And the other plus I see is the opening of a small chunk of downtown for something a little more sightly. So I've grown up with that building where it is and how it looks, and it doesn't bother me anymore or at all. I don't know. I am still on the edge on this one. My gut says I would rather not have a commercial activity on 101. I don't know. That's just me, Mike.
Like to make several comments. One thing that struck me is the statement that they made that there's no reason to stay downtown. They also testified they've had no complaints in, I forget how many years, 40 years or whatever, at the present location. So there's also no reason to leave downtown from that perspective. Now, that said, this is being proposed in a very low density residential zoned area. It means one home, an employee, with everything contained inside the structure and the outbuilding. And if you ever asked anybody, layman, what a cottage industry is, this might be about the last thing you'd come up with. And I'm afraid that if this is allowed, then it's a slippery slope, use the phrase, that the next thing you see, all it requires to be a home cottage industry is a house that you live in, a building, a garage, an outbuilding, accessory building, and one employee. So the next thing that would come along is, gee, I'd like to have my auto mechanic business there. I'm going to build my house on this low density area, put a garage in. I'll only have cars there inside while I'm working on them. There may be a few when I'm waiting parts, or a wreck that came from Gary's is sitting there waiting to be repaired. And then the next one says, oh, well, how about an auto paint and body shop? I'm just going to do that myself. I'm going to have a building, it'll all be enclosed. My customers will come in one at a time. I do the body work. I have one employee, that's all I need. And it's a cottage industry. The next thing is, gee, I could do a welding shop there because I'm going to live there on the house. I'm going to have one employee just to help me. I'm going to store some steel piping, but I'll have it covered. That's where it's a cottage industry. Oh, how about well drilling? I have a well drilling rig. I drive it myself. I hire one guy to help me maintain it and to go out on the site to drill. Now, tell me that's a residential zoned area that warrants all of this kind of industry along that highway. If you agree that this is not a cottage industry, then all the rest of the issues are moved. So the arguments I think the Planning Commission made are all sound, but I also felt they were unnecessary because the technicality for the cottage industry, I assume that it supports that one house, one family, one employee. But nobody would say that that is a cottage industry. So Jeff, we need to tighten that up. Anyway, that's the way I feel. is a residential, low-density area through a scenic corridor through the city, which is part of our comprehensive plan. And once you start opening the door for commercial activities along a highway, which attracts this type of business, the scenario I just went through, you're going to lose all that. And you're going to lose it on the basis of precedent. You allowed it for them. Why can't I do it in the adjacent lot? That's how I feel about it.
I agree for the same reasons. And I think that the scenic corridor is really important to Cannon Beach and what we represent. I also agree about the low density and that it doesn't fit a cottage industry. And I'm very sorry to say that I feel that way.
Yeah, I feel pretty much the same way, but if you look at our cottage industry definition, it really does fit right now, the definition that the city has. So that, I think you're right. I think we need to tighten that up considerably. But I do feel concerned that we would be setting a precedent in a very low residential area. I just wish we could find a place for this business because it's really an essential business to Cannon Beach and to this area. I know I've used them several times for AAA, but I just worry about the precedent being set. I don't know that we'll have oil drilling equipment there eventually, but you know, I think they're water drilling. But I do worry that we would have, especially in a very low density area. That's just difficult.
Brandon, do you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I do feel differently as someone that performs manual labor for a job. A cottage industry is whatever the person that performs the industry does. And as Nancy pointed out, our current rules for it do allow this. I also feel like we are the gatekeepers. This is, you know, an appeal of a decision where they're asking for, I guess, special consideration. And I am, based on their presentation and the fact that the Planning Commission's decision was not unanimous in the latest decision. It was earlier, but since the Moons had offered to make some concessions, the ultimate decision was split. And I see some room for some compromise there. So I may be a lone voice in this, but I would move to grant the appeal. Thank you.
Okay. Are you actually making a motion or are you just commenting?
I'm just commenting at this time. I know we're not quite done with discussion yet.
Yeah, thank you. Just clarifying. Yeah, I'm close enough to still be on the fence, but the cottage industry aspect is not concerning to me. It's the zoning and the downtown policy or the midtown policy, whatever policy that was. I guess I still kind of have hope that we might be able to find a spot that is appropriate and far better serviceable. And all I could ask is that the boys hang on where they are just a little while longer until we can hash out some other issues that we've got that might clarify some spaces. We're actually sitting in one that could have a future. So depending on where our discussions go in other places. So I don't know. I'm just hoping that we have some awareness as the city to really start helping to find the right location. This is not the right location.
Yeah, I think there will be options coming down the road.
So at that, I think we need if there's not any more comments, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to deny the appeal, the Moons, and uphold the planning commission's decision.
A motion to deny and seconded. Any last comment? Okay, Jennifer?
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Beneville,
Yes.
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
No.
Mayor Stidell.
Yes. Okay, guys, hang on. We're going to try to help. I can't promise, but we'll see what we can do. Moving on to our next item. Bruce, do you want to explain this a little bit, and then we'll get Lori to jump in?
Sir, this resulted in a miscommunication on my part with the finance director, Lori Sari. And the information that was originally sent to you, Jim Pano responded to us. And when I read his information, I agreed with his interpretation. It followed what my recollection of the negotiations was. And so that's why you're seeing a revised supplemental budget in this resolution. And I'd like to ask Lori Sari to explain it.
That was just an introduction. I got to do the public hearing part.
I'm sorry.
Okay, hang on there. Thank you. I just wanted to get a kind of a catch up. Okay, I'm opening the public hearing for consideration of resolution 2112 for the purpose of adopting a supplemental budget by making appropriations for municipal purposes of the city of Cannon Beach for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2020 and ending in June 30th, 2021. Staff report.
Okay, so good evening, Mr. Mayor, councilors. So I guess knowing what we know now and what has come to light, my April 20th report to you, my staff report and my resolution included some statements in there that are inaccurate regarding the chamber contract. And so I realized this morning that we needed to try to fix this. I wasn't sure we would be able to still have our public hearing, but I consulted with the Oregon Budget Law Office, and they indeed said that we could move forward, even though the number in there needs to be changed with the new amended resolution and staff report. I was advised that we can move forward as long as we explain the situation and make it just very transparent that there were some errors in that report on April 20 and the one that we set out for the May 4th. So we have changed those things to reflect the budget adjustment that is still needed. It's just worded a little differently now to reflect reality. And so what you have before you is I've taken out all references to the contract, made it very clear that 100% of whatever is collected will be paid to the chamber. The budget adjustment that staff is recommending is for $188,655. That will get us to spending authority of $281,250. That should be sufficient to make payments to the chamber for the amount that we're going to collect. I don't think we're going to collect that amount. I try to be very conservative so that we don't overspend the legal authority that the council gives us when we write those checks. And so hopefully this is clear. The changes I made hopefully are clear. And if you have any questions, I can hope to answer those.
If I can, I would suggest that council asks Ashley if because what Lori had said, that you have to have an explanation as to what happened. And I kind of went too fast probably and provided something, but just to make sure that that is adequate. Otherwise, we can provide additional information.
Ashley, you're on. Do you have any comments?
I can't hear you.
Oh, you're not.
Did we get a
don't think it's-
amendment resolution or anything?
No,
Yes, it was on it's on the dais and it was emailed today.
I see you on mute. Try your volume because we can't hear anything.
Yeah, she tried last time. I think we had an issue, had to use earbuds.
Nope.
Sometimes if you have the earbuds plugged into your computer, it blocks out the ability to
Yeah.
talk.
That's handy.
I know. That's, well, I just had pushed off the time I tried it.
Why don't we try and fix Ashley's problem and then why don't we jump to our public? Because I think we have a public who would like to speak on this. Has
Okay.
asked, but he is concerned, so. Why don't we just, I have to ask staff if there was any additional correspondence. I don't think there was. Is there any member of the public wishing to comment on the proposed supplemental budget? Shall we connect Jim Pano? I don't know if he wants to talk, but.
He raised his hand, so I think he does.
That way, yes, we can answer some questions.
There it is.
Hey, Jim.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, when I reviewed the resolution in its first draft, I was struck by the fact that it didn't really coincide with the contract that we signed and the negotiations that we went through in order to create that contract. That's why I wrote the letter to you all and to the city so that we could review that and match the two so that there wouldn't be any conflict between those. And I would like to thank Lori and the staff who all worked on that to pair those up and make it accurate. And the resolution before you now, the amended one is in my opinion, matches the contract and everything flows together and works together, which is very important for our partnership into the future with you guys. So thank you. I appreciate that. And I just wanted to be available to answer any questions should you guys have any of me or the chamber.
Great, thanks, Jim. Okay, now, Ashley, can you speak?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We will.
Okay. So I believe I caught Bruce's question, which was, to me, does this align with the contract we negotiated with the chamber? And yes, it does. And I'm confident if Lori spoke to the Oregon Budget Office today, that they gave her good advice and it aligns with my understanding that as long as we're clear and transparent about what is going on, then, we're within the law. Is there anything else that you needed from me, Bruce?
Just a comment that Lori had made that there had to be an explanation for what had occurred. And I kind of gave something at the beginning and I was just asking, do you think that was adequate or do we need to take any other action or expand on it?
I feel like it was adequately explained.
Okay, good. Thank you.
I think it was adequate. There we go. Okay, at that, I will close the public hearing part of this and if there's any discussion. Okay. Or questions for staff.
I guess my question is, does this mean we don't have a limit in the amount of money that we give to the chamber, that if we continue to increase our lodging taxes, they get all of that 1% instead of the limit of 444,000? I guess my impression was all this time we had a limit, that we were a cap on how much we give to the chamber.
There was a cap for 3 years. And if you recall, what happened is that, and I forgot the numbers, but they used to get a certain amount of money for promotion and then another $150,000 to run the visitor center. And what we did is we said, okay, we'll give you one amount of money and it'll be the amount that comes in, whatever it is as a result of the 70% of the 1%. And you have to do everything within that. And if we have a year where there's more comes in, then, that goes to you. If there's less, you have to make it work. So last year, we thought that we would be significantly under. And that's why we budgeted, I think, the $250,000 or something. But to get straight to your question, you asked whether or not there's a limit. And there's not a limit. And again, it was because the number, thinking at the time, the total funds between the 150 plus whatever else we gave was significantly higher. And so I think what we had said is that if we collect less, then it's not our issue. And then if you collect more, then that goes to your side. The way it's currently structured, there is not a limit other than the funds that come in. The first 3 years, we agreed to supplement them if we needed to.
So that money goes to both the visitors, excuse me, the visitor center and the chamber.
Yes,
But there is no cap.
there's no
Or whatever
cap,
we get.
not the way the contract is structured at this time.
Okay.
I recall the negotiations on that. And I remember that it was sort of painful looking at it because during those times, the things were different as far as what was coming into the chamber. And I recall that it was that they could get the whole amount.
Right. They took the hit on one side,
Yes. Yeah,
my recollection also.
yeah.
Is there any consideration of renegotiating that contract?
Only if you have consideration or if the chamber has consideration.
Yes.
We didn't have a term limit, I don't believe, in the contract.
Yeah.
It's a relatively short cancellation, but we don't have every 2 years or 3 years.
Yeah, I remember that too, because that was a means to move the funding from both the chamber and the information center into the one bucket.
Because we were funding the information center from general fund.
Mhm.
So, yeah, that was part of trying to go ahead and reduce that. And I don't recall the number, but I still don't think we're close compared to the last year when we were paying the 150 plus an amount, and I forgot what it was. I don't think that this is close to what we used to pay. I'll find out what the old number was.
And maybe sometime in the near future, we should have an open discussion with Jim and the chamber board and just discuss some of it.
I think not having a cap on that first of all limits what we can do with it. And second of all, I'm not sure we need to have all that money going to promote tourism in Cannon Beach. So
At the time of the agreement, though, it was really not in the chamber's advantage. It has worked out that way right now. It could go back the other way.
Yeah, it could.
In a couple years, so.
It is, in a sense, having a cap, because it is something like 12% of the entire tourism transient room tax. So it is naturally capped by that 70% of that 1%.
Mr. Mayor, I believe Jim Pano would like to respond or to say something.
Jim's got his hand up. Go, Jim.
Actually, Sam, you just said what I was about to say. The 70% of the 1% is the cap. If you were to limit that to any number, 1 million for say, eventually that amount of funding will not cover the amount of work that we intend to do. And not all of that goes to promoting to get more people to town. In fact, we've changed a lot of the direction to help mitigate and help guide and direct the visitors that come to town. For example, we are working on a 4th of July page that will help explain and put in a positive light why Cannon Beach is a no fireworks community. So we're taking direction from you, and we're taking the direction that's what's best for our community, and trying to guide visitors to do the right behaviors and fit into our community. So it's not just putting all of that money towards getting more people to town, because I think we all know that that's not a driving factor, especially in the peak season. We want to try to get the right people that appreciate Cannon Beach for the same reasons we do to come to town. And so we're trying to narrow our focus and work on that as far as promotion goes, but we're also trying to help work to mitigate the issues and problems that over tourism could lead to. And we're seeing that and dealing with that at the North Coast Tourism Network, where we're dealing with a lot of those issues as well. So it's not just marketing. And in fact, most of that now goes to cover the visitor center and staffing. So you guys, just wanted to clarify that for you.
Thank you. Okay, so with that, let's, unless there's any last comments, we have a motion.
Move to approve the supplemental budget for the transient room tax fund, resolution number 21-12.
Second.
Seconded. Motion to approve. Any last comments?
Mr. Mayor, do we need to make a clarification that it was the revised version of 21-12?
The amended.
The amended version? Is that what you were talking about, Brandon?
If I didn't say it, I definitely agree with you, Bruce. Yes.
Okay.
So I will say that. Yes, the amended version.
Thank you. We had too many flying around.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
And I have to ask Robin, do you agree with that?
Yes, second.
Okay, Jennifer.
Again.
All right. Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Councilor Risley,
Yes.
Councilor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thanks,
John.
everybody.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Lori.
Moving on to our next item, consideration of ordinance 2103 for the purpose of amending the municipal code by amending chapter 1506, community development fees. I just want to remind everybody, this is one of those ones where we do 2 votes, and we have our cheat sheets here, our scripts. So Jeff, do you want to?
I'll briefly
Brief it.
summarize that this was during our transition in the state permitting, working with Colleen on the ordinances and muni code. And I think it was just a miscommunication, and I will never throw anyone under the bus. It's all my fault. So we're just asking to get that language out of the ordinance is really what it's about. And you'll then adopt a resolution later on that states that, to put it in a resolution form so that we can change this yearly when we need to.
Okay,
This is usual where we adopt fees by resolution and we refer to it by ordinance.
right. Question on that? You trying to find it, Mike?
Yep, I found it. Finally.
I can read that too.
Gotta see where we start here. Okay, we're gonna read by title only. Ordinance 21-03, an ordinance amending the municipal code by amending chapter 1506, community development fees.
So we need a motion to read it.
Oh, I thought we had a motion already. I'm sorry.
We need a motion to approve the first reading of ordinance 2103.
Okay. I move to approve the first reading of ordinance 2103.
Second?
I have to read.
You want to read it? Ordinance 2103, an ordinance amending the municipal code by amending chapter 15.06, community development fees.
I need a second.
Need to,
Okay, so now we need to vote.
I need a second.
Seconded.
Well, Brandon seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Yep.
Okay, he read it, so now we need to vote. Thank you, Jeff.
Okay, Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Beneville,
yes,
Mayor Stidham.
Yes,
I'll do the second.
okay,
I move to approve the second reading and adopt ordinance number 21-03. Need a second.
seconded.
Ordinance 2103, an ordinance amending the municipal code by amending chapter 15.06, community development fees.
Jennifer?
We vote.
Okay, Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Beneville,
Yes,
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Mayor Stidham.
Yes. Okay, ordinance 2103 has been adopted and will become effective 30 days from adoption. Next one is 2104 for the purpose of introducing a special event, repealing parades, Title 10, Chapter 8, traffic and parking, amending signage, limited commercial use and outdoor merchandising of the Title 17 zoning of the Cannon Beach Municipal Code. Yes.
Yes, this has had a long road, started back in December 2018 when we had a local business owner come before us regarding outdoor merchandising. And at that time, we were discussing food trucks as well in coordination with that. But we discussed that and said, are there ways that we might want to address outdoor merchandising, questions about can nonprofits do outdoor merchandising? Can outdoor merchandising be done in the parks, or can we do events in the parks? And so this comes up, it comes up every week, even to today. And so we went back and forth. The Planning Commission, of course, heard this on a series of, and even met with DRB and the Parks Committee on this. And so we've had a long road on this, and then it came before you guys on a few work sessions. And you sent me away to do this and bring back the brochure. I have not fully got the brochure together, but I don't think that should, we have the application. And you've seen the application at the last work session. And so I don't want the ordinance to be held up, because I think we're getting into a season where we might have some events. And now that hopefully COVID is on the way out and we may be returning to some normalcy, I would like to move this special events ordinance through so that those questions can be answered by simply filling out a special events ordinance and application and going through the committee. Any questions?
I have a question, Jeff.
Yes.
When do you think you might be able to get that pamphlet together, even if it's, something fairly rudimentary?
I have a draft of it currently. And so I will bring that back to you guys before I send it out to the world or, post it online. But I don't think that I just haven't had the time.
Hopefully, wondering whether,
Hopefully I will get to that.
no problem. Thank you.
I'm of the opinion now, it might be good to have a couple events under your belt before you design the pamphlet, because there's going to be things you'll notice that are different. So, yeah, okay.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask that, just as he has something he can send to you, I agree that we should try to get a couple of events, but can we just send you the brochure? Or do you want to put it on a workshop and vote on it? Because just in the interest of trying to keep things moving, that if we send it to you and if there's no issues, then
I would,
done.
yeah, I would say send it to me, because I think the brochure is going to be kind of a document in flux for a while until you can hammer out what are the key points, or what do you want to emphasize in the brochure? Because the brochure is almost
It's what people are going to read.
that people are going to be using to understand how this works.
Okay, so let me ask, how long before you want to have it on a workshop?
Well, right now, I would say middle, late summer.
Okay, all right. In the meantime, when we have a draft, we'll send it. Okay, thank you.
I have a few questions. I think I brought this up before. On letter B, under, let's see, that would be page 5, letter B. It talks about a spontaneous demonstration with given minimum of 2 workdays notice. Are we still using that language? Because spontaneous doesn't mean 2 days notice.
No, it means now.
I think we've answered this a few times, and I agree. We can't determine the spontaneous that they come in with an application. We can only, that's something that, so if something were to get out of control or whatever, that's the guiding language that, we have an application for that event. If spontaneous is going to happen, we're not going to be able to, we don't ask them to bring in a permit for those type of events. And so I think this gives cause for those where, we can control or we have some control over. So if somebody knows that they're going to have some type of event, then they bring that in. But this puts some kind of parameter on the language. If I don't know if we've come up with a solution that other ordinances and other communities, and this is how they also use that language.
It may be the word spontaneous that bothers me. And I guess if we could find another word for that type, for the kind of demonstration you're talking about, because spontaneous to me doesn't mean.
That's a good point.
What about unanticipated?
Yeah.
Okay. Just, you can make that motion to amend the word spontaneous with unintended.
I have other questions, so.
Okay.
Okay, on D, applicants for a repeated event held on private property may file up to 4 annual special event applications. I'm wondering about commercial activities like Haystack Gardens. Are they going to have to apply?
No, if it's an event space and it's approved under an event space, and that's also one of the things in our code audit that will be one of the uses that we'll define as part of that. But if it's approved as an event space, then it does not require that.
Okay, you might want to spell that out then in this.
I think, our goal was to spell that out in our code audit and when we update the code.
Yeah, somewhere it probably should be mentioned. And then on the same page, under fees, talking about if any city services are required for the special event, the applicant must agree to pay for the services. Do they pay, for instance, if it's at Tolovana Hall, are they paying the city or are they paying the Tolovana Arts Colony?
I would have to defer to someone else on that. I don't worry or how that's handled. It would be to the city, but whether they have an arrangement with us, it's like it's like a farmer's market or something like else. So, we serve as the authorization, we give them authorization to do this, that event coordinator.
Like, because I know the Tolwana Arts Colony kind of depends on income coming in from things like classes or, art exhibits or something like that. So
I would think that would depend, that's a unique situation. We don't have anything else for the city facility that has a management group in it yet.
So
If it was like a city park, they pay the city. It would depend on the contract we have with Tolwana Arts, I would think. And we could just look at that.
Yeah, because are you saying for when they're doing their normal activities, whether it's some type of class or something, is that?
well, if they're using the facility, if somebody's using the facility, for instance, sometimes they do a comedy club kind of thing at the Tolwana Arts Colony, or they have Zumba that's from an outside group. Are they paying, if they're paying for rental of that facility, or paying for getting some kind of an income, people buying tickets or something like that, do the funds go to the city or do they go to the Tolwana Arts Colony?
Laura, do you have an answer for that?
No, I don't.
We'll follow up on it. I think what we were looking at was if there was additional police, sanitation, those kinds of things that would occur in a public park space.
Okay, so
Just for services provided by the city, not property leased by Tolwana Arts. I just looked at it.
yeah, then this is required. And then on D, on page 6 of that, it says all official city functions of any registered 501c3 nonprofit are exempt from fees. The Chamber of Commerce is a 506, or it's not a 501c3. So is the chamber exempt from fees or not? It doesn't sound like it in this.
It would not be under this. If you guys are wanting that, we can easily say 501c3 or 6.
I believe that would come, as a matter of fact, they just applied for a permit. And I think that would be covered by staff. For example, Public Works or somebody would indicate that there was cost that we were going to incur with Affordable or somebody for cleanup. But I'm not positive on that one. So let me get back with you on that.
And then on page 7D, it talks about banners, my favorite topic. And then I'm just wondering, the way that it's written, it's D1, about all venue signs with more than 16 square feet, and it goes on. So I'm wondering, does that mean that signs or banners would be allowed, for instance, at every gallery or venue participating in something like spring unveiling or stormy weather? I mean, when you've got all those galleries down the street, would banners be allowed in all of those locations?
You could have that up to the square footage for, it depends on how they define their venue. So if they say, just like you said, if it's a continuous type of venue thing, then I would say that's how it would read. We would allow them up to 16 there at each venue. So, which, that's 8x2 or 4x4. Contemporary type of venue, and no banners, as Robin had said earlier, no banners across the public right of way.
All right. But I'm just wondering, I noticed that you have a non-motion activated inflatable sign, which again is just to me, but at least it's not at every venue. But at one time, a few years ago, when they had the spring unveiling or whatever it was, they had these darn things all along, and I know that's not allowed, and I know that's not allowed here. I'm just hoping banners aren't going to be taking the place of those on and motion activated inflatable signs. So I guess the way it reads, I'm not sure that it's real clear, because you say post signs and banners during the special event, so.
Yeah, and it's a good point, Nancy, because I mean, that's what we see nowadays. It's so costly for most of them to do. Even you'll see until they get their permanent signs, a lot of them put up those temporary because it's banner type of signage because that's the way that it's done. So, I personally think it's one of those things where we see how it goes a season or two and see what we think of signage is. I think signage is the most living of all ordinances in any community I've ever been. It's usually the one that you have to come back and tweak, quite often. So.
Okay. And then on page 8, the applicant for the following events shall sponsor a meeting for all affected parties. How do you define affected parties?
If a person, if a business has got a frontage or something and they're being affected or parking is affecting where that business is, then that would be an affected party.
Would you have anything that's residents, if residents are involved? Would
Oh, yeah.
that apply as well?
A parade, for instance, or something like that, yeah.
Would cottage tour fit?
Well, that's a good question. Cottage tours and, what was I thinking? There's something else, but yeah.
Yeah, I think if parking or, maybe they're going to concern the neighbors, then yeah, you would have that.
That is pretty much it.
You're done, Nancy?
Yeah.
I do have one. It's on page 5, section 0401.060. A, it twice references the assistant city manager. And I would like to recommend that becomes the city recorder in both cases.
Yeah, that was one of my other questions. I
Yeah.
thought that was being smart. So, okay.
And if it's okay, that's the only place I've noticed it. Well, actually,
It's all over.
yeah, it's all over so that we,
Search.
yeah, if you would authorize us to do a search and change that to city recorder.
Okay, any others? Anything else? Okay. Sounds like we have a couple concerning points to amend.
I'm happy to bring it back if you.
Would you rather have it brought back, or shall we try just to do a blanket amendment of what Nancy has mentioned?
Well, it seemed like there were enough, they were small, but they were scattered throughout. But timing wise, we're gonna do this sooner rather than later. I asked Jeff, could we make those corrections and get it back for another round here?
Yeah, I can make them, for your next meeting. This is just, it's a technical kind of change. And so I'm happy to do that.
Jeff, be careful what you say, because our next meeting is in a week.
Oh, my goodness. I've got a week.
Well, and I can't do it next week because it has to be posted 7 days before the meeting, but we can do it on the 18th if you guys, we can add a special meeting.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, the 18th.
Okay, 18.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't mean to hold this up, but these are questions I've had all along and.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll draft them, the corrections and send them your way, Nancy, as soon as I get it.
Okay.
Okay, good. Let's do that. As long as it already promises no more amendments on this one.
I might even have the brochure by that time.
That would be interesting. Okay. So we'll skip that script and I gotta find where I'm at. That was the last ordinance. Okay, so our first resolution, 2113, for the purpose of approving increases and decreases to fiscal year 2021 budget by making intra-fund transfers of appropriations in the building official fund. Okay, Bruce or Lori?
We did workshop this. Lori, do you want to go through any details?
Jeff went over this with you in the work session on April 20th. So we've seen this before, and it's just now up for adoption resolution.
Okay, and all we need is the one motion. We don't have to go through all the rigmarole.
I move to approve Resolution 2113 for the purpose of approving increases and decreases to the fiscal year 2020, 2021 budget by making an intra-fund transfer of appropriations in the building official fund.
Motion to approve and seconded. Any questions, comments? Jennifer?
Okay, Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Mayor Stidell.
Yes. Motion passed. Next one, consideration of resolution 2114 for the purpose of establishing a building code fee resolution. Jeff?
So this is now bringing back what you guys just took out of the ordinance and now bringing it back as a resolution in the more appropriate fund. I don't know what would have happened if somebody would have got a building permit in or a fee in while we were in that little space.
Yeah.
I'll leave that to Ashley, but anyhow.
Okay, this is also a.
Can I make one correction?
Please.
Could you please number the pages?
New rule, we're gonna put that on the wall so everybody remembers it. Okay, with that, and you still need a motion.
I move to approve Resolution 2114 for the purpose of establishing a building code fee resolution.
Seconded.
To approve and seconded. Any comments? Jennifer?
Okay, Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
McCarthy,
Yes.
Mayor Stidell.
Yes. Well, these are fun when they get going. Fine. Consideration of resolution 2115 for the purpose of approving increases and decreases fiscal year 2020, 2021 budget by making a intra-fund transfer of appropriations in community development. Jeff?
This was also workshopped earlier, and this is about the Columbia River Estuary Study Task Force, CREST. Funds for to work on the what we're calling the Cola North Bank project, and to let Denise Loffman head up that kind of working group and keep that to look into phase one of a two-phase process for the FEMA's natural hazard mitigation grants. And so this would be to move funds to allow that to happen.
Any comments or questions?
There is one misspelling and it's Columbia River Estuary Study Task Force.
Yeah, I saw that. It's not River or Reaver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready for motion? Yep. I move to approve resolution 21-15 for the purpose of approving increases and decreases to the fiscal year 2020, 2021 budget by making an intra-fund transfer of appropriations in community development.
Second.
Motion to approve and seconded. Any questions or comments? Nope. Jennifer?
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Mayor Stidell.
Yes. And consideration of resolution 2116 for the purpose of adopting the 2021 Clatsop County Municipal Jurisdictional Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan. Boy, I don't know if Jeff's been working hard enough or not. Jeff?
Well, I would think Rick, because he's been influential.
Let's go ahead. We'll bring ourselves back to action here and go straight to our proclamation. 2107 Emergency Medical Services. Jason.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, what you have before you tonight is the proclamation for Emergency Medical Services Week, May 16th through the 22nd of 2021. Representatives from Emergency Medical Services are asking that cities across the country, including the city of Cannon Beach, adopt a proclamation to designate the week of May 16th through the 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week. The purpose of this endeavor is to increase public awareness and recognize the importance of emergency medical service teams. Emergency medical service is a vital public service, and it is important to recognize the value and the accomplishments of emergency medical service providers. This is the 46th annual National EMS Week. This year's theme is caring for our communities. This theme is particularly meaningful now to remind people that every day we are still there to respond, support, and care for the needs of our communities. My recommendation is that you adopt the proclamation.
We need a motion.
I move to adopt proclamation 21-057, Emergency Medical Services Week.
Second.
Oh, 2 seconds. Jennifer.
Council McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Bennett,
Yes.
Councilor Risley,
Yes.
Councilor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Mayor Stidel.
Yes. Motion passes.
I have a question on that now that it's done. It's proclamation 2107, but script was proclamation 21-057.
Oh,
Oh, I was getting creative apparently. I'm sorry about that.
And I didn't catch it until after I'd said it.
is that Julian calendar instead? So, okay, Jason. would you-
Yes. So as you find this very timely with the fire chief here, I know they've been working very hard this year. In fact, this weekend they were busy and they hit the polls. For the purpose of designating the week of May 16th through 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week, proclamation number 21-07 Whereas emergency medical services, EMS, is a vital public service, and whereas the members of emergency medical service teams are ready to provide life-saving care to those in need 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And whereas the emergency medical services system consists of first responders, emergency medical technicians, paramedics, firefighters, police officers, educators, administrators, emergency nurses, emergency physicians, trained members of the public, and other out-of-hospital medical care providers. And whereas the EMS professionals on the front line of the COVID-19 crisis are planning, adapting, and responding every day to take care of their citizens and communities. And whereas the EMS theme, caring for our communities, is particularly meaningful now to remind people that every day we are still there to respond, support, and care for the needs of our communities. And whereas the city of Cannon Beach seeks to recognize the selfless calling that makes EMS so vital, while also recognizing the value and accomplishment of EMS providers. Now, therefore, the Common Council of the City of Cannon Beach, in recognition of this event, do hereby proclaim the week of May 16th through the 22nd, 2021 as Emergency Medical Services Week.
Thank you. I'm thinking in the future, we need to amend this to say citizens and communities and visitors. Because we are unique to being visitor heavy.
Yes.
Thank you, and thanks all the guys on the fire department. Okay, now we have 2 applications. Doesn't explain that very well, so let me go to this thing. We have an appointment to the Budget Committee, and I believe appointment to Public Works. Is that correct?
There's one position open on each of these.
Yes,
Yes.
there's one position open on budget and the Public Works Committee is a renewal.
Renewal. Correct. Thank you. And I also believe both members are here, or at least on Zoom. And they are welcome to make comments if they wish. If they would like to make comments, they may raise their hand and Rusty will sort it out.
Mr. Mayor, that probably would be appropriate if you mention the name of the individuals.
I'm trying to find it.
Okay.
Yeah, both of them have their hand up, so they both
Okay.
would like to speak.
Timothy Ramey first.
Oh, shows a mute, Rusty. Is that his?
Yeah, he has to do it on his end.
Need to unmute for us, Tim, if you want to say something.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Yes.
Okay. Terrific. Well, thanks so much and appreciate the opportunity to be considered for this position on the Budget Committee. I've got a host of business experience that I think I could bring to the operations of Cannon Beach and this position in this committee. And I'm anxious to serve and be helpful to my community.
Thank you. Let's bring up Daryl Comisau. How do you pronounce that?
Comisau, I think.
Comisau? Hi, Daryl.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm Daryl Kamasu, and I was interested in applying for a position on the Budget Committee. I moved to Cannon Beach about 2.5 years ago and would like to get more involved in the community itself. I typically go through all of the meeting minutes for multiple committees, skim through it, and as things catch my eye, sometimes I'll ask questions. Throughout my career, I've been a program manager, so I'm familiar with dealing with budgets in operations groups. And before that, I was a satellite engineer. And because of my engineering background, I'm naturally curious about like specific items in the budget. So when I would go through the budget, I probably could ask questions on every single line item just so I could have a better understanding of it. And I thought that by being on the budget committee, it would give me insight into, how things are being determined and managed within Cannon Beach. And I'd love to be a part of that process.
You realize our first meeting is tomorrow.
Yep, I noticed that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's take these one at a time. Guess we just go down the room and vote yay or nay for Tim first? Or would we just?
Or just say who
I can call your name and you can tell me who you vote for.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. So Council President Benefield,
Daryl Comasu.
Councilor Risley,
Daryl Kamasu.
Councilor Ogilvy,
Daryl Kamasu.
Councilor McCarthy,
Daryl Kamasu.
Mayor Seidel.
Daryl Thomas.
I think it's appropriate. We lost an engineer when Carolyn went.
Yeah.
There you go.
We get an engineer back.
Now,
Rocket science.
Yes.
Okay, so now we've all voted to approve the appointment, I believe, is
you want to do Tim and then we can approve both appointments in the same motion?
No, we just
We all
voted
voted.
for the, we
But we
just,
didn't vote for Tim. We just said Daryl Thomas.
no, that was, the intent was to vote for the person we wanted on the,
We voted for them. Now the motion is to place.
Place him on the committee.
Okay, fine, make a motion.
To nominate Daryl Comasu to the budget committee.
Second.
okay.
Okay,
Councilor Risley,
Yes.
Councilor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
yes.
Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
yes.
Okay, and then we would need a motion to re-elect Doug Crainer to the Public Works Committee.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, Doug Crainer was just elected to be the chair of the Public Works Committee after Carolyn left. So he's very well respected within the community.
Or we're
So we're stuck with him.
I
Tim,
guess you're stuck with, that's right. He still gets to be chair whether you vote for him or not.
okay, wait a second. We're talking about Tim or Doug?
Doug,
Doug.
Public Works.
What has happened to Tim? I mean, we still have
He
to,
was a applicant for the budget committee. He and Daryl both were applicants for the budget committee.
Right.
Two applicants, one position.
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, I did not get that. I understood that there was two positions and one for each, so, sorry. Okay. Explain the Doug thing again to me then.
Doug Crainer, his term is coming up. There is a short time period where Carolyn left, and so they needed to have a chair, and they elected Doug as the chair of the committee.
But now his term is expiring and
Yes, but he's eligible for renewal.
Okay.
But yeah, it was certainly a vote of confidence after Carolyn left in Doug. And from a staff standpoint, he's been great to work with.
Okay. Have we ever, I'm still lost, I'm sorry, that flustered me, so are we,
I think this is a motion to reappoint.
yeah, we don't have to elect or vote.
Right.
Because there's only one.
Okay.
To be a motion to reappoint. Okay,
okay,
that works. I'll make a motion to reappoint Doug Crainer to the Public Works Committee.
Second,
Jennifer?
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Mayor Seidel.
Yes. Okay. Consideration of approving an intergovernmental agreement between the city of Cannon Beach and the Cannon Beach Rural Fire Protection District. Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just before this meeting, I walked into Karen Levante's office and told her that she didn't have to sit through the whole meeting for this item. And just to talk to you about how important trust is among our management staff, Karen wrote down exactly what she wanted me to say and told me she will be listening. So that's our level of trust. I think it's appropriate in my case. I'd like to recognize and thank Cannon Beach Fire Department for their efforts around the hydrant maintenance over the past year. This agreement has resulted in an extremely successful partnership for hydrant maintenance and flow testing. Results of this effort resulted in a comprehensive report from the fire department that provided all the details of said maintenance and flow testing. Public Works is in the process of uploading the details of this report into our GIS mapping system, which is called GeoMoose, which is used to track and manage our infrastructure assets, maintenance records, and flow test results for each hydrant throughout the city. Our desire is to continue this relationship on an ongoing basis. Prior to this, they would paint the hydrants, but I mean, there wasn't a lot of work done. Now we're actually doing the maintenance. The fire department's doing the maintenance. So it's working out very good. Our equipment is in better shape than what it's been. And want to thank Mark. This is the kind of thing that we've been developing since Mark has been chief, and it's a very positive thing for the city.
Karen's actually on the call, has her hand up too.
Oh, come on, Karen. All right, go ahead, Karen.
I just wanted to tell Bruce he did a really good job.
I read what you told me.
You did good, boss. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I know this is to continue the agreement. There are no amendments, no changes to the agreement we already have?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other concerns? Need a motion?
Move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Cannon Beach and the Cannon Beach Rural Fire Protection District, authorizing the city manager to sign the agreement.
Seconded.
Motion to approve and seconded. Any last questions, concerns? Jennifer?
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Mayor Stidham.
Yes. Passage. Next one, consideration of a contractual agreement between the Sunset Empire Transportation District and the City of Cannon Beach for the Cannon Beach Shuttle. Bruce?
Yes, sir. This, we're renewing this program where we have the shuttle through the downtown area. The cost is $60,000. I'm saying, yeah, $60,000 a year. They are having to deal with a number of issues because of COVID. So their costs have gone up considerably in order to be able to operate. But this has been a successful program for both Sunset Empire and the city, and we recommend approval. Lori, do you have anything to add? Okay.
Do we know if they intend to bring back the trolley bus this summer?
I don't know, but I'll ask. I'm
just curious. I saw ridership increase a little bit when that was there.
Where that where I was from, people would let the other bus pass and wait until the trolley showed up.
Okay.
Kathy's actually on the call.
Kathy? Yeah, let's let Kathy say something. Kathy. Hi, Kathy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so you asked whether we were planning on using the streetcar. And yes, it will be operating in Seaside on the weekends, but in Cannon Beach during the week. So yes, you shall see that running up and down the streets in Cannon Beach. It has been very successful, as you mentioned, and very popular. So we want to continue that.
Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ask a question and get an answer. That's fun.
There you have it.
Okay, we need a motion for this.
I do have a couple questions.
Sorry, go ahead.
So the purpose of this is for the tourists, right?
Mhm.
And it's for the tourists to go from Cannon Beach to Seaside?
Kathy, do you run to Seaside or is it just within the city limits?
Well, there's two buses. The bus goes to Seaside and the shuttle circles around town.
Yeah.
Yes, so this is the shuttle that runs around Cannon Beach for the most part, but it does do a couple jaunts into Seaside so that it does connect to Seaside. And it is not only for the tourists, it's for anybody. And so if you live in one part of Cannon Beach, you can take the shuttle to downtown to your job instead of driving a car. So it's a great way to leave your car where it's parked and use the shuttle or your feet.
And is there a fee? I think $1 was charged or something.
Yes, yes, it is $1.
Okay. I'm wondering why there's such a break between from 12:20 p.m. to 3 p.m. because that seems to me to be one of the higher times when people might be using it.
Unfortunately, I can't answer scheduling questions. I know in the past it was due to traffic and mandatory lunch breaks. So we have to give the drivers a break because that's the law. And also it gives a cushion because traffic backs up the route.
All right.
Yeah, that's a 2.5-hour lunch break. So.
Well, it's not just the lunch break, it's a combination of the two. So when it runs into Seaside, then they do the break and then they come back. I think that's how it was. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it's going to roll out this summer, though. So, we'll see.
Now this says it's under the non-summer weekend schedule, October 1 through the weekend before Memorial Day weekend.
Right, so that's not the summer one.
So that's not the traffic buildup time particularly. So I'm not sure the traffic would be the reason for the break.
Right, I was referring to the summertime one, the one that starts, the shuttle that starts on the weekdays.
Yeah.
That stays within Cannon Beach.
Yeah, that's from 10:30 a.m. to 6:26 with only a 1-hour break in the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
So I don't think that's a problem particularly, but 2.5 hours seems like a lot.
Well, those are different routes. So you're talking about two completely different routes, basically. So, and I completely agree with you that middle of the day is a long break. But again, I'm not operations, so I don't get to decide those things. And there is a operational reason for that.
Kathy,
That
can you
big
send
gap
us,
in the middle of the day.
Kathy, can you send us an email if you do some investigation and we'll forward it to council?
Sure, I will have Paul get in touch with you about that break.
Great. Is that acceptable?
Yeah. Good.
Thanks, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Questions, concerns?
Well, I'd like to respond to that. And just in reading, it says, and then I would like to know, Nancy, if you're referring to the non-summer weekend schedule, October 1st through weekend. I'm sorry.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what they're saying though is that they're going to operate for 6.67 hours a day. And I think that may be a gap in the time just because if they didn't have that gap, they'd operate longer than that. And my question, I guess, to you is, do you want them to operate longer? Or are you fine with the 6.67 hours? You just would like them to operate more during the middle of the day?
Again, it's, who is this for? I think for the non-summer weekend, it's probably maybe for employees who work from Seaside in Cannon Beach or vice versa. But at the same time, it just seems if we're going to have people trying to get back and forth from Cannon Beach to Seaside, 12:20 to 3 p.m., that's the right smack in the middle of the day. So, and I realize it's $56 an hour, so I'm not sure I want to spend, another $120, $130. But yeah, I can't answer your question, Brandon. I'm just concerned that that's.
I guess I'd just like to offer a different point of view in that you have a morning to go to work and an evening to come back home from work. So I guess, since we have a limited amount of time, that if that's the case, I would rather see the morning and the evening served, and I'm okay with a bit of a longer break in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not ideal to me either, but if it's, they're trying to budget the 7 hours, I understand why they're doing it.
I think I see that during the summer, we have a lot of people going during the middle of the day.
All day, yeah.
It's all day. But in the non-summer months, it's what Brandon said, it's really the workforce. And they aren't leaving work for long lunch periods. So I think I understand the rationale for it and I'm willing to accept it without adding more cost.
But we will be getting an explanation, but I think that's what it's going to be.
I think the Sunset District has been very different reasoning. Yeah, okay. Any other concern?
If I can, we were on the manager's call, it was last month. And I asked for some time to do a shout out to their director, because I said that you're also almost an oxymoron, and that is creative transportation director. And some of the other ones commented on his entrepreneurial spirit and just the way he has solved problems when they've been coming forward. And so I think that that reflects very well on him and the whole staff. So just wanted you to know that I'm a fan. So.
Great. Don't need a motion.
Great. I move to adopt the intergovernmental agreement with the Sunset Empire Transportation District as presented and authorize the mayor and the city manager to sign the agreement.
Second.
Motion to adopt and seconded. Any last questions? Jennifer?
Okay, Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Councilor Risley,
Yes.
Councilor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Councilor McCarthy,
Yes.
Mayor Stidel.
Yes. Okay, our next item is scope of a review determination for Robert's appeal of planning commission decision to deny an oceanfront setback variance request. Yeah.
All right, background on this is the City of Cannon Beach Planning Commission rendered a decision to deny the variance request application V2102 for an oceanfront setback reduction in conjunction with the new residence for Stanley and Rebecca Roberts, tax lot 600 of map 51031AA, located off Nanana Avenue west of South Hemlock on a vacant 1.1 acre lower residentially zoned vacant property at its April 1st, 2021 special call planning commission meeting. After a duly noticed public hearing on February 25th, continued to March 25th. PC findings are attached as attachment B. Stanley Roberts requests a review of the decision and an application and letter received April 15th, 2021 within the 14 consecutive calendar days appeal period for the date the final order was signed. The city council is to hold a scope review meeting to discuss as a non-public hearing item the terms under which it wishes to review the matter, according to 1788. City council shall use the application request for review under the guidance of 1788, 140, and 150 to inform the decision on whether to restrict the review to the record before the planning commission, limited to additional materials that it feels are warranted, de novo, or remand the matter to the planning commission for additional consideration. The applicant has requested either a limited scope of review or de novo for the reasons provided in attachment A. The item has been noticed for the next available public hearing, meeting most requirements for May 11, 2021. Please note that due to the Oregon's 21-day rule decision, a decision must be reached by May 28, 2021, or an extension granted by the applicant. Criteria 1788-180 is the criteria for review. And staff's comments are, the council has been asked for a review either de novo or limited to the admittance of new evidence pertaining to a newly submitted photo, which is page 16 and 17 of the attachment A, showing a structure located on the subject property, a request for story post to locate the proposed structure in relation to the view shed, and what the applicant terms confusion over technical scientific matters. Since the applicant states that the photograph was not made available prior to the PC decision, there was not an opportunity to enter such evidence into the record. It is at this discretion of the council on whether they admit the new evidence, yet if admitted with the hundreds of pages already in the record, there appears very little reason to remand or hear the review de novo. Limiting new evidence to the view shed or a review on the record seems appropriate. And I believe Mr. Stamp, the attorney, is available for the Roberts, and I think Mr. Roberts is also available.
So the question before us is whether we want to hear it with the new evidence or without. Without would be only the evidence permitted from what the planning commission designed. Both lawyers are wanting to speak. That's up to the council. I would say let's discuss. We want to go first before we ask any more comments.
I have a question, maybe a clarification from Jeff. The application and the denial of that was for oceanfront setback. Not the view, not the height of the building, not the location of a driveway. It was limited to oceanfront setback.
Well,
that was denied.
Yes, the findings were are in the record, and so what their requesting is, what this is about is not over what the evidence is. So you're just asking, can you make this decision on the record, or should we allow new evidence? And it's basically on these criteria on 1788-188. And so how the view shed and all that plays into it, can you make that determination on the record with the information you have, or does this new evidence matter to your determination of just what you said, the oceanfront setback variance?
This information they're proposing to submit doesn't seem to change the required oceanfront setback. So I guess I'm not understanding why we would accept what I would consider irrelevant input. I guess I don't understand how this can be relevant to the determination, very mathematically determined. How does that have any impact on a decision for the setback?
I believe
whether it's or not, I don't understand how that is relevant for us to add additional testimony at this time.
Yeah, and if you weren't swayed by their appeal letter, which they, they've asked for a record of review, and they've given a letter asking for that, that's what you utilize in making that determination.
God, missing it. My take is our job is to adjudicate the appeal. The appeal on the planning commission decision was specific to the information the planning commission received and used to make their decision. So that's my take on it.
Right, and they're making the case that they believe they have new evidence that on the view. Yeah.
And I understand that, but again, this happens on every appeal that we come to or that comes to us. People want to add more information, which turns it into a totally new decision. Our decision is whether the planning commission made the right decision or not. So I can only judge on what they used. Now, if there was an error or a statement that is within the planning commission's record, that's different. And that's a clarification. And I think what Mike is saying is appropriate to the fact that the decision we're making is on the setback, which is a fairly straightforward decision.
And one of the points was this, they said it was not reasonably available. Well, it's just they didn't choose to do it. There was no weather condition or no reason they couldn't have provided it. So again, I would not accept it on that basis.
I do have to ask the council if they want to hear the arguments from the lawyers about whether they want to add or not add new information.
I'd like to hear it.
Okay, anybody else? I'm disinclined because again, I'm going to go with the record because that's what we are supposed to look at.
You can still come to that conclusion after you've heard.
True. Okay, not hearing anybody else, I think we'll have to listen to them.
So I guess we make it official. I would move that we hear this on the record. If somebody wants to second that.
I will second that, Mike.
Okay. A motion to hear this on the record. It's been seconded. Any other questions, comments? Jennifer?
Counselor Risley,
Yes.
Counselor Ogilvy,
Yes.
Counselor McCarthy,
Yes.
Council President Benefield,
Yes.
Mayor Stidel.
Yes. Okay, Jeff.
Thank you.
Get that set up and we'll do that next time.
Good job, Jeff. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, that is that stuff. Now we got our, this point was only supposed to take an hour, right?
That was like our.
Sure.
Hour.
You talk. Who said that? Who said that?
Who said that? Okay. Our next topic is police station, City Hall Police Station project. Bruce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is information that is being provided to you so that you have a better handle on what will be expected in whatever time frame is chosen. And there's two different sets of information. One on the analysis and information, it starts from November 2nd and works its way back. So we can talk about what kind of things would occur I'm assuming we're going to go for November 2nd referral date. So from from around August 13th being the date that we provide the information to the elections officer in Clatsop County. That's the time we would have to get the word out about the project.
Question first. Questions along the way. Let's
Sure.
do this. The 13th is the deadline.
Yes.
So we'd want to have stuff kind of to staff a little bit ahead of time so you can prepare something.
Yes, as a matter of fact, you would have to take action on determining what the ballot language is going to be. And that's what we have to provide. So those decisions have to be made. So, and we'll talk about what is involved with that, but from that point, once we submit the information till November 2nd, you have the opportunity to be involved in explaining, to be able to go out and explain the project. Staff is extremely limited in what we can say. In fact, if any of us get involved and there is a charge made against any of us, the city cannot defend us. We have to defend ourselves. So it's a very serious situation there. Council or a public group I'm saying must, but should take the lead. And I just wanted to say that we have a good story to tell, but we need to reach as many folks as possible during that time. Going back to the next milestone is August 13th, the referral information due to the Clatsop County Supervisor Elections of Office. This part of the project will be driven by the city attorney because that'll be the ballot language, all those other types of requirements. Ashley, do you have any comments on that?
No, I didn't. I really like how you're kind of getting out ahead on the public staff's inability to campaign during that period. And that definitely comes up, and it can be difficult because they can provide factual information, but no advocacy. And so we need to have, all of our information compiled and ready to go by that time. Right. Advocacy type information. And then the baton goes to the council and again, another public group. But yes, we will coordinate the writing of the ballot title.
I have another question that maybe Ashley could answer. If we were moving forward and we got to the point where we were presenting this referral information, is there a timeline that we could also designate if we had to pull out before it got printed on the ballot? You know of that date?
No, I don't. So, the August 16th date or 13th date is when we have to have all the information to the county. I don't know when they print the ballot measure. So I wish I had that information, or I can come back and get it for you.
I'm just curious because that kind of extends a potential, that way we could apply, but still have another date that says, okay, maybe we're not there yet, and pull out.
Right. Yeah, we could definitely look into it. We can give Clatsop County a call.
Okay, thank you.
It's probably on their website.
Yeah.
They usually have all those dates on the website.
Okay, and then going back from that, we talked about the referral information being due on August 13th. I'm suggesting that July 16th, when we're talking about developing the information, that the information be developed by July 16th, because any information that you're going to put out, there's a certain amount of risk in your message. There is the possibility, though, that there's a certain amount of protection if you submit the presentation materials to the the Secretary of State. It takes them about 3 or 4 weeks to do a turnaround. Maybe it won't be as much, in a non-national election year, but we should allow 3 to 4 weeks. And what happens is you get the response back. You may need to modify some things and then you resubmit. So your time frame gets pretty long as far as being ready to be able to go ahead and present materials. So that's why I'm saying that July 16th, we should be able to at least start submitting materials or what the intent would be. So that goes to July 16th. And now to July 16th, We should be developing the materials that we plan to use to explain the project to the public. Most of that will happen closer to July 16th. But if there's something that we are preparing or saying this will be very effective if we present it to the voters, we can go ahead and put that aside now rather than try to decide everything at the very end.
Now my question on the materials to explain the project. So this is, once we've committed to a certain direction, now we're going to start not promoting, but start explaining so that people understand the direction that we want to hit. So, okay. Go ahead. I'm just clarifying for my own head.
And again, as we go through the process now, we can be developing the presentation and outreach strategy. We can talk about it, put it in anytime. If you ask staff for material, you can say, yes, I would like this. I don't think this is that helpful. But I think that I'm recommending that by July 15th, we select a site. It may take longer than that, but the main decision to be made is how are you going to pay for it? Because there's no point in talking about sites or anything else unless you have a funding source. And then the next thing is you pretty much have to have a site. I'm a little reluctant to say, well, we want to have a referral, but we're not going to tell you where, because pretty much anybody that might live by one of those sites is going to vote against you. So I think that we need to be definite in what that site location is. And this is my own bias. I try to take a long-term view on things. I think that we should look at all sites. Let staff provide you with information on it. I think that this is the site for the next 100 years. I think that we need to look, every site's going to be controversial. I think we should be providing information and council make this decision that is best for the city now and into the future. So for that reason, I'm recommending that all sites be considered. And also we need time to be able to address council's questions. And part of, for example, on the schedule is that if you want to look at one site, fine. If you want to look at all sites, fine. But we need to start presenting you with the information. By July 1st, I'm trying to, and again, these things can be out of order, but I think that we need to know what is our question going to be. Are we talking about approving a particular project? Are we talking about approving a funding source so that we can, be in alignment as we move forward, as opposed to on August 12th saying, well, what are we really trying to do here? So, but we need to decide the nature of the referral question, and between now and the 18th, decide on a funding strategy. We got several things that are in the hopper, but we really need to decide. And that issue, I don't see any way that we can do this project without a loan. We don't have the money in-house. So I think that any discussion, when we're talking funding strategy, is how do we pay debt service? All right. Kind of went through that quickly. Any questions talking about November 2nd back? Any questions on any of these phases? I'm sure there are other things that will be added. I'm just trying to hit the big ones and again, make sure that they're out there for you to look at, so we don't miss anything and you understand the time that we need to allow to make decisions.
Let me just clarify one aspect of this, trying to address Jan's concerns. This is not a technical document that we are approving in any way. It is an informational point of view of 3 deadlines that we have to measure if we want to go that way. The November 2nd, obviously, is the election. The August date is for getting the paperwork in if we want to go for an election. And the July date is so that we have our presentation ducks all lined up in a row. So my calculation is that we have about 100 days from today to the July date to get the council consensus on a site. That's one thing, and I think Chris mentioned that. We have to present the consideration of a site and to the public. I think the public needs to start kicking in on this, and we need to create some sort of vision of what we're going to do on the site. Again, with what Bruce was saying, we have several sites that need to be addressed, looked at again. We have a lot of information on several of the sites. We can dig that up and rehash some of that information. We need to create an estimate that explains each site's costs so that we have that within the balance of the decision making. And I believe that once we have some sort of direction, vision, site choice, we need to take that back to the public so that they can say, boy, you guys are doing a great job, hopefully. If they don't, we need some time to also rethink things before we start rolling forward. So at that point, we're in July. And this is 100 days. It is a lot to kind of hope for that we can come up with consensus within that time period, both within the council and within the community. I think it's doable. It takes a lot of interest within us to move forward quickly amongst all the other things we're doing. But it also takes a necessity to garnish some interest from the citizens. Hopefully that will happen when they start realizing that we're going to go one way or the other. I would almost say that on that July 16th date is when there is, or just before then, when we decide whether we've got enough information to move forward with the referral or not. That's my thinking on this. We welcome anybody else's thoughts.
And if I can, just probably everything on here can be decided on August 12th. I don't think it's going to be the best decision-making that we could possibly do. And I think there's really two big decisions for you. One is the funding source, the second is the site. So we've got time to go ahead and work, and that's really where your focus can be. We could be providing information on everything else as we go. But I think that that's really, that's why I do think that it is doable. I think that in any site, you're going to find that you're going to have opposition. And you just have to decide or know that you're not going to get unanimous approval on anything that you do. And you need to make the best decision that you think you can make. And then we're done. But I don't think it's going to be possible in this case to go ahead and make everybody happy. So the dates that I have, July 16th, these other ones, if they get pushed some, that's going to be probably okay. But what happens if we don't start putting together information to distribute to the Secretary of State, then we're not going to have materials potentially. So I think that that's something that we've got to, give serious consideration to, because from what I understand, it's usually a back and forth at least once or twice before you get approval. And what you get by the approval is a level of protection that if somebody says you didn't do this fairly, then you've kind of got the Secretary of State backing it. So that's that part.
And ultimately, the November election decision is the funding source. It's one way or the, whatever direction we decide on the funding source, that's what people are voting on. But in order for them to be voting on it, they have to have clarity as to what our vision is moving forward for City Hall, Police Department, Police Station, something.
Mm-hmm.
So our job, my thinking is our job is the important part is to create the vision of what we want to do. and then ask them, how do we want to fund it? We have to clarify how we want to fund it, but we're asking them if they agree to how we want to fund it. So complicated.
Now, the next time would be in May.
Yes.
If we chose to do that. I think when we had the work session, that's what all of us agreed to consider. And then all of a sudden it came from another direction and we were speeding it up. This is the summertime. I don't know about you guys, but that's a busy time for us to be putting this all together. Quite a few of us work, and I think that to be totally behind this, I need to have a location figured out, and I don't think the time frame that we've been given is enough. So I would like to propose that it be in May, when we can really take some time, get the public involved, and do it properly.
You might be right, but I think I'd rather see us shoot for the November to keep basically the pressure on, recognizing if we aren't there, we can do it in May, where we say, well, we've got until May. We might not make May either.
We've actually got time. There is an off season when we can spend more time doing this. Summer's really busy.
I totally agree with you, Robin, but there are other contingencies that have come up. And what I would say is let's use the regular meeting of August, the first week of August meeting, to literally say yes or no on whether we go with November or May. Because one of the funding source decisions most likely will happen in November without us or not. With us or without us. If the fire department's concept of a tax is going forward with what they hope to do. But that's one of the funding decisions we have to decide on. So.
Well, in fact,
if we
I
want-
thought the fire department was the one we were really working on and not the city hall police station.
I agree with
I
that.
think it just got piggybacked on top of it, which is a little frustrating.
No, it's just a decision we need to make before August 1st. Or to say, we're ready for this or we're not. And that gives us some time to talk about whether we're going to be ready for that.
It gives us something to shoot for.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also gives us momentum. Get started now, do it as much and as complete as we can. Then in August, as you say, decide, is it going to be May? Is it going to be November? Are we ready for it? Do we feel comfortable doing it in November? Or do we want to wait until May and see if we need to do something else? I think.
And the schedule did change. Actually, I don't know if I don't recall it being May, but it very well could have been, Robin. But
Yeah, we all came to a decision that it would be in May. And then all of a sudden you kind of came around and said, oh, well, we've got to have it sooner. And
no, the only thing
and so you didn't listen
well,
to
no,
what we agreed to.
no, I think that I did listen, but the dynamic changed because I didn't hear anybody telling the fire department that we aren't going to do this till May. That discussion has been about November. And so our project is tied to that. And so I gave you a document that would allow you to get there by November. I'm not forcing you to do anything, but if you're going to do it, I'm going to try to get you to do it right. And so if the impact is not only on us, if you're going to change it and say, go to May, then I think we have to have another discussion with the fire department because they can't go it alone. That's the problem that we've got.
We can still go ahead with that funding source and support the fire department. And if we're not ready with our own project, we can still bank those funds until we are.
Yeah, I think
It's not like an either or. We can still do both.
it is possible, but my experience is that folks want to know what you're going to spend the money on, before they vote, as opposed to just okay, well, you're going to collect this much money and then, what if you don't do it? But Robin, we can go ahead and do it any way, any order, but that did change it. There was nobody stepped up and said, well, we aren't going to do this till May. I do want to point out that if we do this, let me see. If we were to do it today, it would be 3 years before we were in the property. So if we do it in November, it's 3 years from November. If we do it from, we're adding another year to, the conditions that we've got here, additional costs, those kind of things. So there might be a reason to move forward and try to get it in this time frame. There are two big decisions you have to make. And we can go ahead and accelerate those, move them up, whatever. But again, it's funding and the site. So we can get you that information. We can go ahead and provide you with all that. We can have the public time. I recognize that it'll be a harder time because it's in the summer. But I think that this is totally doable. It's whether or not you want to, maintain this schedule or, go to May.
I think we can do it. We gotta at least shoot for it. That's all I'm saying.
Mhm.
Don't we have a fallback?
Yeah, I understand that. But it's a tremendous effort to go ahead and get us to that point. And I really do think that if we're going to do it, I would try to focus on saying, yes, we are going to do it. Because it's very easy when you run into the controversy to just say, well, we'll put it off.
Yeah.
So.
But the other end of this is if we're not prepared enough to have a decent concept put forward to the people, they're not going to vote for anything. So it behooves us to get as much done as possible, as quickly as possible, so that we have the momentum is a good term, but also just the concept to present comfortably with feedback back and forth so that we can present it. If we were, half-assed, put something out and said, let's vote, for a tax or a bond on this, nobody's gonna vote for it. So it behooves us to get as much information as quickly as possible. None of that means these dates are written in stone. But the only thing that we are getting is the information that we have deadlines to shoot for if we want to shoot for them. And I think it's worth trying to get something done by the August dates so that if we decide we're not ready, we have then the next, because that time isn't May, it is, what would it be, 2 months, 3 months ahead of May.
That's February something.
It's February that we have
It might be February.
new information in. So we've got, it's a weird calendar, but it's ahead of time in order to get things on a ballot. So yes, summer is crazy busy, especially for me. But fall is too. So I don't, it's either do the work or give up.
Yeah. Mr. Brad, I don't want to force anybody. I didn't wrap this around and try to bring it, to my will that we have this election in November. I explained how that happened. And if you want to change it, you can change it. This really doesn't affect me personally, except for one thing. And that is my commitment that I made to the police department, because they said, all right, we'll back off. We're not going to, and they've not made any fuss, but everybody knows that it's a really bad condition. So it came down to, instead of fixing all the problems that are there, we'll go ahead and just take care of the air things for us. and then we can go ahead and make this work. Well, if that was for 3 years, if it's going to be 4 years, it's a little bit of a different situation for me to say, all the problems that you've got, you're going to continue to have, except we'll take care of a couple. So that one is important to me personally. The other one is that we have a big construction cost escalation going on. And so when we're talking about, we can bring, I don't think it's a $16 million project. I think it's significantly more than that now. The prices that we had that are around 16 million were for construction to start in the third quarter of 21. So if it's not going to be for another year or two, then potentially the project that we will be bringing them, and we do need to update that information. It'll cost $1,200, but we do want to update that information. But the project that we'll be putting in front of people could be $500,000, a little bit more than, because we didn't make November. And that's not my concern, but I think it should be, a concern from the council standpoint. And this schedule does allow enough time for public input. We just have to make the decisions early enough so that we can involve the public. But I'm not pushing you to a November date.
One thing we haven't talked about really or discussed thoroughly is whether or not we shouldn't go ahead and establish a food and beverage tax now and then bank it, as Mike says, and then have some money available for some of these other costs that you have listed here for the design and so forth. And then be able to share it with the fire department earlier rather than later. Boy, that got him out of the room, didn't it?
Some people do anything to get out of a meeting.
Yeah, I borrow that.
It's just a beaver.
But that's something that, we might want to think about, because if we decide that we want to go ahead with the city hall and police department, and I decide that we want to use the proceeds from the food and beverage tax to pay for the loan on that particular project, we need to show to our lender that we have the backup money to be able to pay off that loan. So if we put in a food and beverage tax in place now, we would have that. We'd probably have a good year's worth, if not more, money saved to be able to go ahead with the project, and also to show that we have established a way to back up the loan.
But also have it grandfathered in the event
Yeah.
anything else happens.
So plus we're helping the fire department a lot earlier, instead of going to, it's not going to take money out of our residents' pockets. If it was going to take money out of our residents' pockets, I wouldn't be suggesting that we put it into place. But it's taking money maybe out of the day trippers' pockets for the most part. And it really might be something that we want to consider doing.
I think that there's a lot of merit to what Nancy's talking about. One is that we don't know if anything would go on in the legislature that would preclude us from doing this. Right now, we don't have that. But if somebody was to put something like that in place, then we're talking about, again, we have two funding sources. The other one is taxes on people's homes and people's property. So this is one, the food and beverage would avoid that, although there's problems or issues with it. But if we were to move forward and do that, then the funding source is taken care of. And we can say that we are going to build a city hall police station at some point. The funds that would be collected wouldn't be, they would pick up a little interest, but those would not be subject to inflation. So if we had, $1 million and it was 17 million, then we're only looking at a 16 million, because those funds could go to that purpose. It also allows us to take care of the fire department, which, I think that, I think that they need a lot of resources to be able to get to where we would like to see them be. And so that's why I'm supportive of the providing them with, helping them get some sort of a funding mechanism. But by doing this, it takes care of somebody precluding any action on our part, and we can actually start accumulating the funds. And I think that we could probably get away without putting and saying this particular site, and say that we, as we collect the funds, we'll go ahead and do that. It would be good if we could say the site, so we could start design. But there's a lot of merit to what Nancy's talking about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I see the merit. I am concerned by the fact that this is tricky. If we, as a city council, just adopt tax, we will be sued.
What?
Sued. And that will probably delay anything coming in for the entirety of the suit. I don't know. I'd have to ask our pro on that one.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a risk there. If we wait until November and have it a popular vote on it, if they want that, we have a risk that they'll say no. At that point, we still have the ability to adopt it. But if they've already said no, that's a pretty bad idea.
Yeah.
So that's that risk.
You also have the risk of
But you do,
being precluded if you wait for a long enough time.
yeah. And also on the good side of waiting for their election is we have the support of the community if it passes. And that way the suit would be more difficult. Probably we still have it. So I don't know, that one's a tricky one, and I think that takes some more discussion. And I'm afraid I'm gonna have to have a hearing on that so that we have public input before we go too much further. It's just saying, yeah, let's do this. See what happens.
I don't know, maybe this is for the next meeting discussion, but it could still be a two-step process where the city enacts the food and beverage tax conditioned, or we impose our own conditions that will still are ready for proposal on fire department, police department, or city hall and police department, that we will review that, take it to the voters to say, do you want to continue this or terminate it? If you'd rather pay property taxes to support this instead of food and beverage tax on the tourists, then that's your choice. But that's going to be a choice, I'd be a little presumptuous on how to vote for that. But I think there's a consensus that we need a police department and a city hall. They're falling down around us. Once we realize that's just a fact that we can present very well. If we then say, well, how are you going to pay for it? Nobody wants to raise their taxes raised. But if we've already enacted a food and beverage tax to show that that's how we'll cover the debt service, it seems to me that there'd be a sigh of relief, and we will be more than happy to have a new police department, city hall. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but delay and delay and delay and asking the citizens what seems to me an obvious question. Gee, would you rather pay for it with your property taxes or let the tourists pay for it with their food and beverage tax? Really, you're going to be surprised at that answer. I understand what I'm saying, that we have the weight of the residents, the voters behind that. It seems like it would add some strength if you end up going to court. And I think that's valuable. But you weigh that against perhaps having the whole thing squashed before we can even enact it. If I'm being asked to vote on a city hall and police department and told, gee, I don't know how we're gonna fund it. I'm not gonna be real keen on voting for that. Where it is very important to individual neighborhoods. But to the city at large, I think we have a good story and a good rationale for why we need this department, city hall. With that acceptance and then an understanding that it's not going to be a huge burden on the citizens that are going to benefit from this, as well as our visitors that benefit from it. I just don't understand why we would wait. No, I don't.
I do think that the more we have on a vision towards a city hall police station project, the better we would have to promote our decision or the vote on it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think to what Bruce is saying, there are two things we need to work on. One is a simple yes or no on the food and beverage tax, or how. And the other one is some sort of vision on where we're going to go,
Yeah.
what we think is the best choice for the city hall project.
Well, let's see if we can't get there.
Yeah. And if that takes, 100 days or 300 days, that's what it takes. But I would like to try for the 100 days just to see if we can there. If we run into loggerheads, which we probably will, especially if we start getting public input, who knows? That's a decision I won't be able to make until we've heard some stuff, both in our own council and public.
And one way to truly get a measure of the public at large is to take it to a vote. Just getting emails and speakers doesn't necessarily give you the consensus of the voters themselves.
Yeah, everything we do in this case is going to, at some point, come to a public decision. Well, I suppose there'd be one path that would not. If we go with, just deciding to do the food and beverage tax and then decide where we want to build, there would be no public input, but I can't see us doing
No,
that.
I don't think we
No,
should. Yeah.
I think we get public input on the building and location and all of that. But if we could have the funding issue not clouding their decision whether they even want to pay for a public police department or not.
Yeah.
We have this topic specifically again later this month on the 18th. Is that correct? I can't remember
I
which.
think it's on the 11th also, right?
No, not the
We can
11th,
put it on the 11th. I would like to continue the discussion.
but on the 11th, we have ECFR on the Roberts appeal, so it's a kind of a big one to begin with, just.
Really will bring our pajamas.
Yep, I know, but what happens is that, again, the time that Sam's talking about, we'll lose 14, 20 days.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind tagging it on. We can always keep it brief if we're not in a spot where we can't, but at least, if anything, starting to figure out how we can present things so that we have site location options to choose from, and maybe start putting those out to where we get some public input on that. That would be a good start. And then also with the tax or bond issue choice.
And we can start, staff can start working on that now. And, we can try to do the site information.
One thing that we talked about last time was putting together just a simple pro and con for the various sites. I've done that personally. I was going to talk to you about that so we can incorporate it. I would think if any of the rest of the council would like to shove towards staff some pro and con ideas so that we have some wording to work with. And then we can coalesce all that into one big discussion just on that factor.
You know, a year ago, we did all that, but things change.
Things have changed.
People's minds change as well. But it seemed, to me, it was a worthwhile exercise and it doesn't take too much to go and review your old thoughts on that and see if you want to update it or make any changes to.
I think you need to do that, you know, especially since we're closer to a decision. The other was, you know, just like a general, these are all the things you're gonna have to consider. I think that you do need to have the information that is specific. If you're gonna talk to the public about it, you need to be in agreement on what the information is. That sort of thing. So that's something that if you provide direction, we start working on.
That's also what I'm trying to get at is for the pro and con concept. We all have different things that are important to us and things that we are opposed to. So I think the more that we can get on the list, then the rest of us can talk about those. Because I know my list is missing something. It obviously is. And that would be what the rest of you could provide.
Are we going to be, are you working on the renderings for the spruce?
Yeah, I have not been directed to include spruce in the analysis. I have checked, talked to the folks that were going to do it. They will be getting back to see if there's an adjustment on the price. But the answer is no, but we are working on information if you ask us for it. We wanted to know what the issues are. Same thing with, we're all guessing what the inflation is right now. And so just to get some information from the people that did the estimates for us the last time, they know what the bids are coming in at. Let's find out what our number is now and not be guessing.
And also, is there any way of getting the minutes of the meetings of the committee that was looking at
Sure.
everything? I'd sure like to
Sure.
review what, I attended the meetings, but it was a year and a half or so ago.
Sure.
So I'd like to be able to look at those.
It'd be good.
Yeah.
Well, I'd still kind of like to see whether or not we have any business looking at the Spruce Street. Not something that I'm real excited about, but it's been proposed and discussed, and we still don't have any idea of what we really would be looking at there. So.
Well, I think you all know my point of view on that one, so we'll just move on. Any last comments, and we'll start wrapping this up.
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't know if I was supposed to write something down.
Nope.
No consideration of.
I don't know. It's the council's choice. That's just.
I know, that's what I'm saying. I didn't know if there was a choice.
Well, I would like to see it myself.
I would. I would not look at spruce until we have totally exhausted the other options. So I wouldn't spend any money on spruce until that point. I don't know how the rest of you feel, but that's just me.
Brandon have something to
I
say?
don't know. Brandon's right there.
I know.
And right there. So,
in deference to Mike and Nancy, I think in order for them to get the information they look for, I'm supportive of that. I'm not supportive of the space currently as a location. I'm sorry if that's convoluted.
I agree. I'm not wildly enthusiastic, but I think it's something that I'd really be curious to see what it is that seems to be so interesting to some people about spruce. So, I'd like to keep my mind wide open about that whole location, but I can't make a decision on something I don't know anything about.
And that's all I'm saying. We looked at a number of other sites and there's one that meets much of the criteria. There's location and elevation and so forth, city owned, that we've not assessed the way we did the others.
And if we don't look at that site, and I don't know if anybody has any others, we're really down to 2 sites. We're down to the RV park in the city here.
And Southwind, we still have Southwind.
Yeah.
I mean, that's been the topic all along.
Yeah, okay, but it's twice as much, but that's, yes, we do have Southwind still.
Well, and I'm not interested in Spruce at all. That is such a special place for us in our community. We can't do something to that. I have same location, Southwind RV Park, and there has been another property that was talked about, but we haven't talked about it as a group.
Yeah, and we'll get to that, but I think, again, my sense is let's hash out the ones that we know first. And if they are just totally not working, then we've got to look elsewhere. So at that point, but we will, I guess I'm coming back again to pro and con, because that's the simple discussion that we need to start with. What are the pros and cons between the choices that we have? And if they are, one of us has one that is a pro and another one has the same topic as a con, that's a discussion that needs to be had. And we can talk about the basics of just the general stuff. We know that if the RV park is a flat piece of land that's in a semi-possible inundation zone, the spruce is almost identical. So
except for location.
Except for, that's just as far as engineering. So I don't really need to do a question on engineering for those comparisons. You could just literally take what's there and plop it and say that's the amount that would cost. I disagree with that, but that's because I would do something different. Anyhow, getting tired, past my bedtime. I think we're all done for today. One last chance.
Is there any direction to staff on anything to do in the meantime?
Just make sure we have another meeting so we can keep talking about it.
Okay.
So are we doing pros and cons and minutes from the committee? Because I'd like to.
Definitely that.
Okay, but the pros and cons will only be on the city hall property and the RV park.
And Southwind, that is still an option. Yes, it's expensive, but it's still, there are pros to being expensive. So we have to look at that. Okay. Anybody have anything for whatever that last thing is we always do, monthly status reports? Oh, anybody have anything?
I had one question.
Question.
Where were the 2 hit and runs?
Thinking back, because that was last month. I know where one was actually right back here in this parking lot, and I found the vehicle down in Tijuana, and he admitted to it. And then the other one, I think, was downtown, but I can't remember.
Just wondering where in town that might happen.
Actually, no, the other one was right on Monroe. And they got it on video, but it wasn't close enough to get the plate. They just got a vehicle description, and it had pulled into one lot and backed up and just crunched the fence. It's like a demon, slow down and then turn and left. But yeah, it was to a fence. It was hit. So close to downtown.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
You bet.
I think it's a good of the order. Chris?
I do. Council's aware that we've tried to do some events in the park. And that was kind of part of our COVID program, that create some events so that people can be doing things outside. And we're excited about some of the possibilities. I told you that the buskers are coming back every other Thursday, and that Coasters wants to do something every weekend. These are, while we go through the COVID thing, these are city-sponsored events. And the council has given staff some authority to waive certain things in order to deal with the COVID situation. In order to help Coaster put on the event, we've talked about putting like a 10 by 10 container, like a moving thing or whatever there, so that they can put their, especially overnight, so that they can put their sound equipment, anything else that they have that they don't want to, move a bunch of times. And so tentatively, we've agreed to that. But Jeff had let me know that the way that our code reads is those are only allowed for construction sites. And if you don't have an active construction site, you can put it in place for no more than 16 days per year. It's not 16 days, take one day off and then bring it back again. So we would want to go ahead and keep it there all summer. It would be pretty much out of sight. It would be behind the stage. But we can either go through a code change, which I don't know if we could do in time. The others, because the city is sponsoring the event, it's COVID related. You've given us authority to go ahead and waive certain things. If you would have any heartburn, if we were to go ahead and make a determination that that is underneath that particular direction that you've given, and that you're okay if I make that particular decision.
So as a restriction on indoor events, this would be a solution to that by having outdoor with greater spacing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, and Nancy, you may be aware, I'm not aware of any events that they're planning on doing inside the theater.
Not until the fall.
Right now until the fall. So this would allow those events to happen in the park. It can be done without this. It's just that we're trying to work with a partner that's going to be doing it every weekend for 2 days, so that they have less stuff to schlep around. It's a way to help them.
Really wet there.
We would put it in a place that's dry. We would make sure that there would be no damage to anything that was stored in it. We'd have to find a good location.
No, I'm talking about the ground.
Not behind the